All right, we are about to dive into one of philosophy's oldest, toughest questions. And we're going to be guided by a really groundbreaking essay from the philosopher J.J.C. Smart. Let's just jump right in. Let's cut to the chase. Is your mind just your brain? It's a question that gets right to the very core of who you are. When you feel a sharp pain, or see the color red, or have a crazy dream, are those experiences just a bunch of electrical signals firing off inside your skull? Or are these something more? You know, think about it for a second. Science gives us a physical, nuts and bolt explanation for pretty much everything, from the way planets orbit the sun to how a single cell works. It really seems like the whole universe is just, as J.J.C. Smart put it, increasingly complex arrangements of physical constituents. But there's this one holdout, this final frontier. Your sensations, right? The after images you see when you close your eyes, your aches, your pains. This totally private, internal world seems to be the one thing left that doesn't fit into that neat physical picture. And that is the gap J.J.C. Smart wanted to close. So how do you solve a problem like consciousness? Well, J.J.C. Smart came along with a solution that was both radical and just stunningly simple. He wasn't trying to create some complicated new theory. He was just claiming an identity. And there it is. That's the whole idea in a nutshell. He's not saying sensations are caused by brain processes or that they're connected to them. No, he's saying they are them. A feeling of pain in the strictest possible sense is a particular process happening in your brain. Full stop. Okay, so why make such a huge claim? Well, Smart was driven by a really powerful tool in philosophy and science, Occam's razor. Basically, it says if you've got two theories that both explain the facts, you should probably go with the simpler one. And honestly, a universe that just has physical stuff is a heck of a lot simpler than one with physical stuff plus some extra, mysterious, non-physical mind stuff. To Smart, the alternative just seemed, well, frankly unbelievable. If your mind and brain were two separate things, there'd have to be all these bizarre, one-of-a-kind laws of nature just to connect them. He called these nomological danglers, borrowing a term from another philosopher. And these unexplained laws just sort of dangling there between the brain and the mind just seemed way too weird and unscientific for him. This really helps clarify the crucial difference here. Think about it. Footprints are correlated with a burglar. You find the footprints, you know the burglar was there, that's two separate things. But Smart's claim is that a sensation is a brain process. It's one thing, one identity, not two. Of course, an idea this huge is going to face some serious pushback. Smart knew this, so in his essay, he basically puts his own theory on trial. He brings up the toughest objections he can think of, one by one. So let's see how his big idea holds up under cross-examination. Okay, here's the first big one, and it feels like a knockout punch, doesn't it? How can my feeling of pain be a brain process if I can tell you all about my pain without knowing a single thing about C fibers or neurons or any of that stuff? They must be two different things. Smart's comeback is so simple and so powerful. Of course they can. For thousands of years, people talked about lightning. They saw it, they described it, they were terrified of it. They knew absolutely nothing about atmospheric electrical discharges. But does that mean lightning isn't an electrical discharge? No way. It just means you can know about something under one description without knowing about it under another. That whole lightning analogy, it's actually a clue to Smart's master key. It's this single powerful concept that he uses to unlock the defense against pretty much all of these objections. And it's a story you might have heard before. So for ages, people would look up at the sky just before sunrise, and they'd see this brilliant point of light in the east. They called it the morning star. It had its own myths, its own identity. And then, after the sun went down, they'd look to the west and see what they were sure was a completely different object. This one they called the evening star. Again, its own separate thing. It actually took a major scientific discovery to figure out that these were not two different stars at all. Morning star and evening star were just two different names, two different descriptions for the very same object, the planet Venus. This is what philosophers call a contingent identity. It's not something that's true by definition, right? You couldn't figure it out by just looking up morning star in a dictionary. It's a fact about the world that has to be discovered scientifically, just like we had to discover that lightning is an electrical discharge. So let's apply this master key back to the mind.
This whole idea of contingent identity completely disarms that first objection. Just like Morningstar and Venus, the word sensation and brain process obviously have different meanings. We learn them in totally different ways. But that doesn't stop them from referring to the exact same thing in reality. And that's why you can know all about your sensation without having a clue about the brain process it actually is.
Now, Smart actually pushes this idea even further, right into how we talk about our feelings. He argues that when we report having a sensation, like seeing an orange afterimage, we're not actually describing some mysterious internal orangey thing. We're being what he calls topic neutral. We're really just saying there is something going on in me that is a lot like what happens when I look at a real orange. And that something, Smart says, is the brain process.
Okay, next objection, and this one feels really strong. If you have a yellowish-orange afterimage, that experience has the quality of being yellowish-orange. But if a surgeon were to look inside your brain while you're having that experience, they'd just see gray, squishy matter. No orange to be found. So how on earth can they be the same thing?
Smart's reply here is super subtle, but it's brilliant. He says the person making this objection is making a logical mistake. He's not claiming the brain process is the color orange. He's claiming the brain process is the experience of having an orange afterimage. Think about it. My experience of seeing a green tree isn't itself green, right? It's just an experience. And that experience, he argues, is the physical process going on in my brain. So, after all the objections and all the replies, where does that leave us? Smart argues that even if we can't prove with 100% certainty that the identity theory is correct, it's still the most rational, most scientific position to take. And to make his case, he uses one final killer analogy. So back in the 19th century, there was this naturalist named Philip Goss who had a wild theory. He claimed the world was created just a few thousand years ago, exactly as we see it, but with fossils already buried in the rocks and canyons already eroded, all put there by God to make it look ancient. Now here's the crazy part. You can't disprove this theory with evidence. But no scientist on Earth takes it seriously. Why not? Because to believe it, you have to accept millions of bizarre, inexplicable facts for no reason. It's just needlessly, absurdly complicated. And that is Smart's final verdict. He's saying that dualism, the idea that the mind and brain are separate, is just like Goss's theory. Yeah, it's consistent with the facts, but it forces you to believe in a whole zoo of strange, dangling laws connecting the physical world to the non-physical world. The identity theory, on the other hand, is just simpler. It's more elegant. It gets rid of all those danglers and fits perfectly with the scientific picture of the universe as one unified physical system. So the identity theory is powerful. It's simple, it's scientifically very appealing. But it leaves us with this huge, profound question to think about. If your deepest loves, your sharpest pains, and your most vivid memories are all, in the end, just physical processes in your brain, what does that change about who you are? Is something essential lost in that translation? Or is the physical universe just far more magnificent and mysterious than we ever imagined?